On this episode of Bootstrappers, we're going to speak with Viry Ortega and Alex Barclay, who are virtual assistants at Anequim, about how to manage virtual employees well. That's next.
Welcome to Bootstrappers, a unique program designed to help make your business better. From property management to remote workers, Bootstrappers is here to help your business succeed. Bootstrappers is a production of Anequim LLC, so let's lace up those business boots and join Bootstrappers with Jeremy and Gwen Aspen.
Welcome to this episode of Bootstrappers, where we talk about topics that are important to real estate and property management entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Gwen Aspen, and I'm here today with two lovely guests. I'm super excited to introduce to you Viry Ortega and Alex Barclay, both remote professionals at Anequim, and they're going to talk to us about the best way to manage remote professionals and their experience being a remote professional in the property management and real estate space. Bootstrappers is powered by Anequim. Anequim helps property management companies become more profitable through virtual assistance, back office support, or our 24-hour call center, which helps them with leasing, maintenance, and call overflow for rent manager clients. If you're a fan of the show, please like, subscribe, tell all your friends, and we have a book giveaway at the end of this episode that we give away to the most insightful comment on either our YouTube channel or on our Instagram at Bootstrappers Show. So with that, I'd like to say hello to Alex and Viry. How are you guys today?
Not too bad. How are you?
Wonderful. Yes. So we want to talk about your experience being remote professionals. So first of all, let's just talk about what jobs you all have that you're doing at Anequim remotely.
Ladies first.
Thank you. Well, I got recently promoted to recruiting manager. I was previously working with the clients. I was a customer success manager, and I was helping them find the right remote for their jobs. So yeah, I'm just starting this new.
So you work remotely, but you work kind of with the clients.
That's right. Yes, yeah. And I help them find that also a remote person that's going to work for them, and the right fit for their positions.
Okay, great. And then Alex, what role do you play?
So I'm a virtual assistant. I'm mainly based for my company as a leasing coordinator. So I deal with, new business, recurring business, property owners alike, across the whole board, dealing with the maintenance, the operations. It's a bit of a crazy world.
Yeah, it is. You're really digging into the whole property management space. Yeah. No rest for the weary.
No, absolutely not.
So people are going to find this interesting because clearly you're not Mexican.
No, absolutely not. So I'm originally from London, actually. And I took myself over to Mexico, met a lovely lady, and decided, it's time to venture into the unknown. So there I am over there.
So how long have you been living in Mexico?
Since the 1st of January, I believe it is.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So start of the year, 2021.
So did you know you were going to stay there for on a permanent basis?
I sort of committed for a certain amount of time and just wanted to test the waters, but I'm a big fan of sunshine, it turns out. So thought I'd make it a little bit more of a permanent thing. Yeah,
that's great. Sure. So I don't think people, you guys both reside in Guadalajara, correct? Yes. So people don't really get what an international city it is. I mean, there are tons of expats or whatever living there, right, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me initially going out there, I didn't really know what to expect. And then the diversity to all of the different sorts of people that you find out there it's crazy. It's almost as much as London is itself,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, real interesting time by all means.
And Viry, since you've been the recruitment manager or, working in recruitment, you've seen all the remote professionals come through, and you can attest to the diversity of the remote professionals as well, right?
Yes, definitely. Like, we have people that are from London. I have people from Scotland, Germany. I've seen Venezuelan also, so we do have people from the South. that moved to Mexico. And I think we're all looking for this virtual world where, you know, you have the flexibility of being in your home and work from there and, you know, avoid all maybe the traffic or the commute. So yeah, I have seen a lot. I think it might have grown more now because of the pandemic, probably. But I do see one of the things that I hear about people wanting a job, it's they prefer that virtual part now that they were able to meet it.
Yeah. And so people, I think sometimes when they think virtual assistants, they don't really realize that people can do everything that you can do from behind a computer, but in Mexico or really anywhere, right? So, I mean, your jobs, Alex, maybe you can speak to this. You're doing high-level projects, I'm sure, and other kind of more sophisticated business practices from your home in Mexico, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the job can vary from, bringing in the new business to offering out those renewals, and then next thing you know, I've been working on, rewriting whole databases.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been
So tell us more about that. Like, what exactly is that project?
It's just bringing up to date all of the new sort of properties that end up getting outsourced by our CEO, for example, and then we have to list them appropriately. So we have to get all of the pictures uploaded, profiled in a certain manner going forward, to make it really displayable and extremely informative at the same time, just to give enough people that information going forward to see this is what you get, being limited to everybody having to access everything purely through a laptop or just a computerized database. You need to have all the information clearly there in front of you. So if you're not able to go and see these properties in person, at least you have a clear enough description and, visual representation of what you're going to be sort of investing your money into as well. Not just as a renter, but maybe as somebody who's going to be looking at buying a new property as well. So
you're updating the investor website so that people can buy things without maybe even seeing it in person.
Exactly.
Okay, so and you're part of that project and getting that off the ground?
It wasn't exactly something that I saw myself taking on, but, I threw myself into the deep end very early on. I like to learn things as quickly as possible at the end of the day. And as soon as they saw I was competent enough to do so, that's when they started piling on the workload. And
you're game for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can, and that's where the real growth, you start to see it in yourself, and you start to realize you're capable of a lot more things than maybe you thought you could do originally.
Or even maybe your manager thought you could virtually. You've shown that this is truly a career, not just a job.
It's always something I wanted to do at the end of the day, so I'm just glad that I've been able to do a good enough job on my side of things, so... Absolutely.
That's great. And Viry, you've worked on a lot of projects internally at Anequim, correct?
Yes, I started being the sales assistant, and then from there on, I think that also will, because of what I proved myself to, and I've always been super interested in like helping things get better, and I love doing projects, to be honest. Like whenever I had the time, I was like, oh, I'll do it. Send it to me. I'll figure it out. Like I'm much more of a doer. And kind of like independent as well. Like I like to look for my own stuff, and so yeah, they started passing me on projects, and I was very happy for it. Like now I see on our webpage things that I've done, like videos and little stuff, and I feel proud of myself. I'm like,
yeah,
I made that.
absolutely.
It's super nice. Yes.
So instead of just doing operational tasks, I mean, you guys really can handle your own rocks, if you will, if you use the words of from EOS, or maybe other companies call it quarterly goals, but you really have taken on your own quarterly goals and really ran with it, right?
Yes, definitely.
So, and Viry, I've even been able to hand off to you, like give you very little information and be like, help me get the shows all ready for the Bootstrappers. And you were like, okay, I got it. And created like calendarly events and automated emails and all kinds of stuff. So I do think that kind of broadens the perspective of what's possible with virtual labor or workers. So now when managers are working with people from Mexico and they totally get it, that you're capable of anything a domestic U.S. employee can do, from behind a computer, and they really want to make you part of the team. What kind of things really inspire you to work harder and feel like you are actually part of the U.S. Teammates?
Well, in my team, what my manager does is she does happy hours for us every about month, 2 months. Also, if we bring in new people, she does a happy hour so we can all meet each other. And she makes these very fun games, like with inside jokes about the team. So I think that's something that makes us feel like in a real team, not just somebody who's behind their desk taking orders from somebody else and that's it. Like it's also nice to see everybody together and maybe learn a little bit about what each department does or each person does. A fun fact about people. I think that's a great way to interact with your employees when they're not close to you. Definitely.
So have you done anything on your team that helps you get to know everybody better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're constantly on video calls to each other. There are multiple different platforms that we use as well to be able to communicate with each other, like Slack, Zoom, Google Meet, for example. And all of those things just keep everybody quite closely linked in together. If you need anything, you just ping over a message. Or, I mean, on the basis that everybody's now working in a very remote world, is sometimes, I guess for some people, the biggest struggle would be feeling that loneliness and that confinement of staying in the same space. So to be able to see somebody else on the other side of the screen, to actually have a really, closer connection by just having the face in front of you. And
I agree with that. I think the faces really make a difference.
100%.
And like Viry, I've seen you quite a bit, and I feel like I know you. Like when I saw you in person, it felt like I've seen you several times, even though this is literally the first time I think we've met in person is this conference right now that we're at. But don't you feel like you can even be pretty personally close with people virtually?
Yes, definitely. Now that I'm at this conference as well, I saw 2 or 3 clients that I've interviewed with. So it was also like, hey, hi, nice meeting you. So you know what I mean? It does make you feel more personal with the person. Now you meet them and you don't feel like, this is new. You someone who you talk with the whole day, every day that you see a lot. So yeah, I do think that the video part is very important. Before all of this COVID thing happened and remote, I remember having meetings and never using my camera, like for big meetings, and it was a thing. Nobody would tell you to use the camera because it was like normal. Nobody wanted to show their faces, but now it's a must. Like it's that interaction feels different. It's not just you speaking to no one.
I would say 90% of our meetings at Anequim are video calls. It's only when I'm in my car that I'm on my phone. But if there's an opportunity to have a video call, I always prefer it over a phone call. And I think that a lot of people have had to get over kind of a fear of being on camera, but the pandemic has helped. But that is essential, I think, for feeling connected with the team and feeling like you're on the same mission with the people who are in an office environment. Would you agree? And is your company pretty good at using the video calls as a primary mode of communication with you?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of my manager, she's always like, oh, let's get on a video call, And like I said, in a new remote working world, people can feel, again, confined, closed off. It's easier. It's harder on the mental health. So
it is harder for you all. I mean, I didn't realize how hard it is to work from home. I always thought of it as an advantage until COVID hit, and then I was working from home, and I was like, I can't wait to go back to the office. So that probably is a challenge for you. I mean, as a long-term career being at home, is it?
Not necessarily a challenge, I'd say, but it's definitely an adjustment that I think a lot of people are going to have to start getting used to. Maybe not so much as different areas of the world manage their lockdowns in different ways and shapes and forms. But I know a lot of people in the UK, especially back at home, did struggle in that respect, So it's just getting used to that new comfort level, I guess, and this might be the way that it has to be from now on, the new normal, so to speak.
I think it will be easier after COVID is totally, everybody has a vaccine and we go back to normal, because when you guys are home all the time and then there's no gym as an outlet or anything
Right.
to do after work, it does make you stir crazy.
I also think that we should now create a schedule for our lives, basically. Like, have everything organized on this is the time I'm going to wake up, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my work hours, yes, my 8-9 hours a day. And then after that, try to do something different. Like, set up from this time to this time, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to go walk outside. Because, yes, making a sedentary life, it's not great. So I think that as long as you keep in mind that you still need to be living a life outside your house, even if you're working remotely, create that environment of work as well. Like having your own desk, I think it's very important. Having a space where you are dedicated to what you're doing, also to avoid not being focused and stuff, or getting distracted. Exactly. So I think that's something that has worked for me, like creating a schedule for my days and just following them. It doesn't really make a difference between maybe the interaction with other people, yes, but again, as we were saying, talking with your team frequently during the day helps a lot. But to me, avoiding in my previous work, I used to take from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get there and back. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of time wasted. It's gas. It's stress. So I wouldn't go back to that. Like if you ask me, it's not something I want to do. Commute for an hour every single day. So I would say that just create a schedule for your own time, so that you don't feel like you're trapped inside your house the whole day.
So as far as management goes, what are the best practices? What are the best things that managers can do for remote employees to, number one, train them? Let's just start with training. What is the best way to train somebody remotely, in your opinion?
I mean, from my personal experience, I've managed in the past on a retail basis. It's always best to set the right expectations from day one. So this is what the job entails, this is what's required of you, so this is what we expect from you going forward.
Here's how we would measure success.
Absolutely, 100%.
So setting that up on the front end, and then how were you trained?
How was I trained? So again, everything was very much based on sharing screens, video calls. They give you a bit more independence once they can realise you're competent enough for the role going forwards. Maybe you can take it away to just a quick phone call. Oh yeah, how do I do this really quickly? Just give me some hints and tips, and then you can go away and do your own thing. I think there's many different ways that managers could go about it, but the best way to do it is set the expectation, realise the competence of the individual that you're working with, corresponding with them in the way that's what can we do for you and what can you do for us alike, on the 50-50 side of things, so that you're both actually working together to help create that level of growth going forwards as well.
Did you work with written documentation? Was there a lot of processes and procedures that you were following, or did you have to kind of create those on your own?
On my side of things, I like to be quite proactive in that respect. So where there weren't necessarily written scripts for me going forward, I would create my own based off the information that was relayed to me. And then going forward, I could make that comfortable for myself, but then also, structure it in a way that maybe I could pass it on to the next person who might take on my role after me, for example. So I believe, there's a lot of proactiveness that needs to go into these remote jobs as well.
So remote workers really should have that as an expectation moving forward, that if you're going to work remotely, you're going to have to be more proactive than maybe you would have to be in an office. Is that correct?
Absolutely, 100%. From working in a purely retail environment for many years, the whole transition into the remote world was a completely just crazy time for me in itself, so getting used to that was one thing, but it doesn't take a lot of getting used to in that respect if you already sort of set the expectation of, how am I going to do this for myself? This is me coming out of my comfort zone, having to create a new comfort zone. So what's the best way of me doing that, you know?
So the proactivity would be writing your own procedures, and maybe since maybe the training might not be as in depth as if you were in person, you really have to go out and kind of figure out how to use the software yourself. Vera, I know you're really proactive. What are some of the things that you had to do in order to be competent at your role being remote?
I think that it's helping. Like, also companies, it might be a little bit hard for them to, find the right way to train someone or to have everything all together because of how the organization works. So I think that helping that side as well. If you find something that you think it's not working, have to speak up and say, well, what if we do this instead? Or what if we don't do this and we just do it this way? So I think that's another thing aside from being proactive, to give ideas and help them. Of course, everything has to be structured, and by helping, if you don't see there's a structure in the company that you're working on, you can help in creating it. Maybe that can help you help your manager and help even other people to get the training better.
So the manager doesn't have to be perfect. They just have to be open to suggestions and say, hey, and be honest. Like, hey, I don't have everything written down, but part of your role is going to be writing it down with me and for me, and making sure that this role becomes more organized by having you in it.
Yes.
And then you both have demonstrated that you can do that in your own roles. And obviously, companies are always growing. Even if maybe you had perfect processes at 100 units, and now you're at 300 units as a business, those processes are going to change. So relying on remote professionals to help with that transition is something people can do, because you guys are amazing professionals, right?
Thank you.
So what things do you think managers need to know that are harder for you? Like, maybe sometimes we're insensitive to the remote workforce. Is there anything that you'd like managers to know?
I think there weren't that many remote jobs before COVID. So a lot of people aren't used to that whole sitting in the same place 8 hours a day, for example. It doesn't have to be that way, If you're lucky enough to have 2 or 3 rooms you can dedicate to your work, that's fantastic. Not everybody has that at the same time. So just giving them, we expect you to work and we expect you to work hard, but at the same time we realise that maybe you come from a job where you're walking around the shop floor all day, for example, or you're going from one end of the office to the other, you're going into different meeting rooms. Just find a way, even though you have a set routine, to be able to keep yourself active in the meantime, so you're not just sitting around 8 hours a day. You can get up, go and make your lunch, and you're not a robot,
Yeah.
So
just kind of understanding the stresses of working from home a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Walking the dog or something might be like having maybe a little tiny break here or there
For sure.
to stand up and stuff, and just being cognizant that it is hard.
If you need a drink of water, go drink some water.
Yes.
It's absolutely fine,
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. So how about you, Viry? Is there anything else that managers should maybe, do you find that managers are a little insensitive in some ways to the remote workforce, or ways that they could improve?
I think that's something that's very important, and I heard it in the meetings that I was with you. The recognition part, I think it's something very important to keep the person motivated. If they're doing something wrong, obviously let them know and provide feedback, which is very important. But also when people are doing something right, I think that it also happens a lot that someone is doing a very good job, so the manager gets in that comfort zone of knowing that person is doing great, I don't need to worry about them, and then they forget about him in a way, So I think that could be something that could be good, like that constant recognition on, I know I haven't been able to talk to you for a while, but I just want to let you know you're doing great. I'm sure you're doing the job good, so I trust you. Something like that, just to avoid having a person thinking like, well, am I doing something right, wrong? Why haven't I talked to my manager in this time, So, because when something bad happens, it's very easy to go to the person and be like, why did this happen? But when something good happens, it's like, oh everything went well. I don't need to contact you, or I don't need to talk to you, you know what I mean? So I think that's something that can be important for managers, just to keep up that recognition and motivation with their remote professionals, and if they're doing something right, let them know they're doing something right.
So there are some ways that they can actually give gifts or little things in Mexico, and I don't think people realize that. What are some things that are accessible to Americans to provide for a little touch of thank you in Mexico?
What I've heard from clients that have asked me and that I've recommended, it's like, for example, Uber, if they want to send them lunch or coffee, they can just open Uber Eats and put their address, and they will be able to find the nearby restaurant. So maybe a gesture like that. Or if you look at any, if somebody had a baby, or I don't know, they were sick and you want to send them flowers, there are also many apps where you can just put their address and send them flowers. Gift cards, maybe. There's a lot of people that like working, I don't know, listening to Spotify. So maybe, I'm going to give you a gift card of Spotify because I know you listen to music while you're working. Or, maybe a Starbucks card. I would say something that you can send them virtually that will make the difference in saying like, oh, thank you, I appreciate you, what you're doing.
So just so people are really clear on what's possible, if they did Uber Eats with the MX, like .mx, is that how they access the Mexican Uber Eats?
You can even use the normal Uber Eats, and if you put the address, it's going to let you know what it's nearby.
Oh, really? So they don't even have to change the website.
No.
What about Amazon? Do they have to change the website for Amazon?
Yeah, in Amazon they do, because the shipping, I think it's different, so things can get lost in the mail. But if they do it in Amazon MX, even if they use their American card, it goes through. So there's no issue. Just make sure they're in the MX one, so that way there's no issues with the shipping, that it takes more, that it gets lost, because it's coming from a U.S. store. The same things that they have in Amazon US that we have in Amazon MX usually. So just the store location is different.
So that's really great. I mean, managers really do have an opportunity, and I think that's even different than just a few years ago, to really send things, little tiny things that make a difference to their remote professional, make them feel like they're included in the team and they're cared for like any other employee, and they don't feel forgotten about, because I guess that's the risk. So another thing to think about is parties. If everybody's in the room and you're on a computer, be cognizant that that's not going to be like a fun experience for you guys.
Yeah.
Have you been in that experience?
I haven't, no. But yeah, I would think that if everybody's all together and you're just here virtually, it might not be as fun. I mean, unless you send that person some beers maybe, and, at least...
Yeah, well, that's a possibility. I mean, you can do some fun things over Zoom, some Zoom parties or whatever that could make it feel fun. So if they sent you like beers over Uber Eats and then included you in it, it might feel like a fun gesture, like you're included. Mm-hmm. So that's the main thing. I think the only other thing that I would say is that managers aren't going to be able to manage the same way as if someone's in the office, because you can't really manage by just overhearing a conversation in the office. So they have to be more deliberate about the feedback, either through listening to calls, if that's what the job entails, is making phone calls, listening to them, giving feedback forms, or really just managing by the numbers, which we know we're supposed to do anyway, but having remote employees actually using KPIs to manage the work, which feels better for you guys too, because if you're well trained and you know how to do it and you're not being micromanaged, and then it's just about the numbers, I mean, it's more professional on all ends, but that's more of an approach to manage remote workers too. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with remote working, it speaks for itself at the same time, on the basis that maybe you can't manage on a face-to-face basis. There's a level of trust that really needs to be earned to begin with at the same time. You give respect, you get respect, and trust works with respect all the same as well. I think that's a very important thing in terms of, managing people going forward at the moment. But on the basis that also at the same time, numbers don't lie. The work's going to speak for itself. If you can see the work being done to a good standards, then, it's easy to see that you can trust this person as a remote assistant, by all means. Whereas if the work isn't up to standard, you don't need to see somebody on a face-to-face basis to be able to see whether the work itself is being done to the standard that's required or not at the same time. So, sort of swings and roundabouts in that respect, I guess.
Yes, I see that. So another thing is just getting to know each other. I mean, it might be a little bit more deliberate because you're not having those natural interactions at the office about, running into each other maybe at the same part of town or whatever. And so it really is helpful if a manager's like, how are you doing? How was your weekend? And learning a little bit more about you as a person. That helps build the trust as well, right?
100%. I mean, in terms of just speaking on behalf of my manager, she's always keeping in touch with me in terms of, so how was your weekend? How's your week going so far? Is there anything I can do to help you right now? And then we have a very good relationship going forwards now, so we just bounce off of each other. And I say the exact same thing back to her because not only is the trust there, but the respect is there mutually as well. So we're both just bouncing, and the amount of work that we get through, like my company in particular is a small company, but it's growing extremely quickly. So on that basis, we have to be constantly communicating very well between each other. And as long as we have that good connectivity, then we don't even find it as an issue going forwards. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, I'm so grateful to have you guys on the show today. Thank you so much for your awesome perspective.
Thank you.
And our book giveaway this week is Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones by James Clear. Awesome business book. So that's a wrap. We'll see you next week on Bootstrappers.
This has been Bootstrappers, a unique presentation designed to help you better understand how the world turns. Contact Gwen or Jeremy at hosts@bootstrappers.club or visit our website, Anequim.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Google Play, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. Thank you and join us next time for Bootstrappers.